Hi. Yes, it is true. I have 400 oil paintings of emojis in my bedroom that I'm trying to get rid of. If anyone is in the market for an emoji oil painting, find me afterwards and I will mail you one, I promise. Anything to get them out of my house. So, I'm Alex. I'm the founder of slash-hyphen. We do Slack consulting, which means we help companies build custom bots, and we do training and we do consulting on how to deploy Slack most effectively. And I love bots. I'm talking about bots every day, all day, but I think that bots are dumb. And bots have too much hype, and it's annoying, and we need to stop talking about bots. But bots are really powerful. So I think that there's an interesting balance here of powerful bots and dumb bots. And hopefully today we can talk about some rules for building powerful bots instead of dumb bots. And when we talk about bots, I'm sure everyone in the room has a different definition for what a bot is. I think that bots are beyond talking to a computer via text. Bots are just applications that live in a messaging tool. If you've been building Twilio apps for the last 5 or whatever years, you've been building bots. Bots are applications that we can access in the tools we already live in. And they're really powerful because they're in a messaging tool, not because they use text as the way to communicate. So that's rule 1. Whether it's SMS or Facebook or Telegram or Slack, the power of bots is in the platform. And when we look at what many people agree is the inspiration for all of these bot platforms, which is WeChat. WeChat has 1 billion users and has had bots on their platform for many years. This is a WeChat bot. And that looks like a lot of buttons to me. And it's a web view inside of WeChat that lets you, this is how you would order a doctor through WeChat. And people use it because it's really easy to use. And when we look at this, this is a 28-button interface. That every single one of these keys is another button that we need to hit to get someone to do something inside our app. Compare that to this. This is 2 buttons. The future of bots looks more like apps than they do like text. Slack is about to introduce buttons. Facebook has buttons, and all of these tools will get more and more advanced over time. So rule 2. Look to the future. And now, one of my favorite things and one of the most powerful things about these bots is that bots have all this context. If I build a Slack bot, I know when you install me all this information about who you are, who you work with, and what you work on. From day one, I don't need to get that data any other way. If I build a Facebook app, I can know your age, your gender, where you live, your name, and more data, including your credit card down the road, without having to ask you for it. And I saw earlier, white pages now inside Twilio will let you get that information about the people you're talking to. So bots mean that you don't need to ask people for this information, and you have it from day one. So my favorite example of this is a bot for Slack called Mecon. And what Mecon does is it lets you schedule a meeting with your team. You can say schedule a meeting, and it makes a meeting. But the cool thing about Mecon is that it knows who I work with, so it doesn't need to ask me. If there was an iPhone app, I would need to then say, here's who I work with, here's their email address, go email them, or make sure that they all download the app. Because it's a Slack bot, it lives inside of Slack and knows who I work with. So that's really the power there. That's rule 3. Context is powerful. So let's take a step back. Why the hell are we talking about bots? It's venture capitalists. There's someone in Sand Hill Road who decided to give a bunch of money to people who are making bots, and now every fucking startup needs a bot strategy. And that's great, but this is what Gartner calls the hype cycle. So we get really excited about something, we build a lot of shit, and then we're like, okay, this is like pretty good, but not as amazing as we thought it was. And then we get back to close to where we were before, productively, but the hype sort of dies out. We are near the top of the hype cycle on bots. Bots are super hyped. At the same time, let's look at some of the last waves. What came before bots? Well, there were social networks. Everyone was super into social networks. And then they were into mobile apps. And everyone needed a mobile app strategy. and then they needed mobile social apps, and then they needed mobile social video apps. There was 1 week in 2011 where everyone launched Instagram for video. There were like 24 Instagram for videos, and like none of them are around anymore. These are a bunch of apps that launched in 2011. One of them is Snapchat and is worth multiple billions of dollars, and the rest are mostly dead. I'm sorry, Google+. So, like, it's gonna be noisy. 250,000 apps launched in 2011. 250,000 iPhone apps. We're about to get a deluge of bots. There's just gonna be bots everywhere. And some will be wildly successful and some will fail, but everyone is gonna be hearing about bots all the time, and there's gonna be a lot of them. That's rule 4. There's gonna be a lot of bots. So what do you do when there's just a ton of bots, when there's a million bots out there? I think one of the keys is to focus on niches. So you don't need to build a bot for every one of Facebook's 1 billion users, or every one of Slack's 3 million or whatever active users. You can build a bot for a few people that helps them out a lot. And there's gonna be less competition there because you're more focused. So find ways to build niche bots that are really powerful for a few people. That's rule 5. It doesn't need to be mass market. It doesn't need to be everyone, as long as you help a few people a little bit. So I used to work at a company called meetup.com. Many of you have used it. It's a way for people to find groups to meet up on things about. Meet up about things on, I don't know. Anyway, words are hard. So Meetup internally uses Slack, and we had a developer named Larry, and Larry was a hero, and one day he wrote a little tiny Python script that went out to our admin interface and pulled into Slack all of the data about a group. And while it was super simple for him to build, every single customer service person used it multiple times a day. Because rather than have to open up Chrome, do a search, and find the group, and then paste it back into Slack, they were able to, in a few seconds, just pull it into Slack. And while that feels small, if you save 1 minute a day for 100 people, you're saving 300 hours a year. And that's a lot of time. It's really, how many ways are there to save people 1 minute a day? At the same time, how many ways are there to waste 1 minute a day from 100 people? So be careful about that shitty user interface, but also look for opportunities to save people a minute a day. So rule 6, time adds up. Now, this is probably what many of the developers in the room's desks look like. We're all finding ways to avoid switching context, to avoid having to go from one tab to the other, and building command line tools that let us do everything in one window. That's what all of these platforms let us do. They let us be a command line for the other tools that we use. When Larry built a bot that lets you find details about a meetup group inside Slack, he built a command line tool in Slack and avoided a context switch. So that's rule 7. Context switches take time. So every time you can avoid a context switch, you've built something powerful into your bot. So this seems to be the strategy. You find an existing behavior, find something someone is doing already, and then build it into a bot. It doesn't mean that we need to identify new behaviors. We can find things people are already doing and pull them into the tools we're using. People are already going to an admin interface, and the bot that Meetup built lets them do that inside of Slack. So that's where things are going. We can find things people are already doing and build them into bots. Rule 7.5, structure things people are already doing. Probably just an add-on to the rule before. So I know Ben Brown is speaking later from Howdy. I love Howdy. I think it's such a cool Slack app. And what Howdy does is it takes a meeting where everyone would have had to be there at the same time sitting in the same room and turns it into a parallel conversation. It goes out in Slack and asks everyone what they would say and then generates a report. So it's reimagining that meeting in a world where robots can talk to us inside a chat interface. That's rule 8. How can you redefine what it means to have a conversation by using computers to restructure the conversation? So the New York Times has maybe the best Slack bot of all time. And it's called Blossom. What Blossom does is it's a piece of machine learning code that finds New York Times stories that are about to go viral, and then identifies them. So the stories that it finds are 3.5 times more clicks than stories that Blossom doesn't identify. So it wouldn't be a talk about bots without mentioning Tay from Microsoft. Rather than hook their AI up to Twitter and just tweet out all the stories that they found, this bot posts to Slack and lets the social media editors figure out which stories belong on which of the 100 social media channels. So the bot is using Slack as a way to start a conversation and filter what it's coming up with through humans. So that's rule 9. Use humans to filter computers. So this is a Domino's app that lets you make a pizza. And so you can pick how many mushrooms you want on your pizza and how many pieces of pepperoni and how much sauce and how much cheese. And that's a really cool way to order a pizza. And so is this. This is an app that lets you push a button and get a pizza. One of them is a really easy thing to turn into a bot. And one is really hard to build as an interface inside a messaging tool. So both give you pizza. Both solve the same problem. So how can you build a super simple app that eliminates decisions? So rule 10 is to use curation to help make your bot really simple. Now, speaking of bots, this is Poncho. Poncho is an app that texts me every morning with the weather. But a few months ago, they launched a Facebook app on the Facebook bot store or whatever it's called. And their Facebook app would let you ask questions about the weather and get answers. So here someone says, what's the weather going to be like this weekend? And Poncho says, are you on a boat? Because I was not able to find any results for that location. And so when the bot feels like you can ask it anything, people are going to ask it anything. And so it's key to make it clear to people what your bot can do and what your bot can't do. So rule 11 is to build guardrails. Make it clear what your bot can do and what it can't do. So these are 2 bots. I like both of them. One is called Coco. Coco helps teens who are struggling with depression and anxiety through a really interesting piece of cognitive behavioral science that helps them reframe their thoughts. Storyful is a bot that identifies news stories that are trending on social media and finds images that the media can use, so it gets licenses for them. Storyful is a Slack bot, and Coco is a Kik bot, because teens use Kik and journalists use Slack. It would be pretty weird if there was a bot for journalists that lived inside a Kik, because Kik users are teens. On the other hand, Coco could probably be a Slack bot that helped you deal with workplace anxiety. So it's going to be key to think about who your users are and where they live and how you're going to talk to them. So millennials live in Facebook Messenger. Teens live in Kik. People at work are using Slack. The way you talk to each of those groups of people is with different language and a different type of interface. So it's helpful to build your bot for the platform your users live on and then talk to them in the right way. That's rule 12. Understand the platform you're on and who uses it and how to talk to them. Which brings us to lucky number rule 13, which is, as much as I love Steve Ballmer, developers is not a useful bot strategy. So the Slack App Store is 5 months old, and I went on looking for a tool to run a stand-up bot, and there were 6 of them. But if I wanted a bot for almost any other class of specific user, they probably don't exist, because developers are building bots for developers. The opportunity exists right now to build bots for other fucking people who aren't developers. And they exist, I promise. On the other hand, building bots for lawyers is probably a dumb idea, because lawyers don't use new technology. So somewhere between developers and lawyers is the sweet spot for bots. This is how I feel about a lot of the bots out there today, which is that there are people in a room pretending to be computers, pretending to be people in these messaging platforms. So you have bots like Finn, which is a really cool AI that lets you do searches via natural language. So you say, like, find me a bar to go to tonight, and it finds a bar. And yes, they are using an AI, but they're also using people. And that's great. And bots like X.AI, which helps schedule meetings, uses people and AI. But if you're using people, why not be honest about the fact that you have people training your bot, your AI, and charge money for it so you can pay those people at the end of the day? It doesn't work to have people doing the work and then not make any money, because eventually the venture capital money will dry up. Go figure. So that's rule 14, be sustainable. Which brings us to First Day on the Internet Kid, who's very excited about bots. And I am too, but I have news. No one outside of San Francisco is sitting at home, waking up in the middle of the night saying, I just need a bot. So just like in 2011, no one was doing a Google search for social networks that let me send disappearing selfies to my friends. Like, that's not a Google search that was happening. So every single one of your users is not looking for you and looking for a bot. That's rule 15. No one cares. I'm sorry. So they will care eventually, but right now, no one cares about bots. So this is probably the last bot I used as of a year ago. It was called Smarter Child, and it lived inside of AIM. And you could chat with it, and it was a toy, and you could ask it if it liked dogs, and it said, I like dogs. And that was pretty much the extent of Smarter Child and bots like it. They were toys, and they were not useful things. They were just novelties and gimmicks. And so that's what most of people think a bot is, which is rule 16. This is new. No one knows what to expect when they install a bot. They don't have a preconceived notion of what is going to happen when they click install on that bot, which is why onboarding is so important. You need to have a way to, right out of the gate, get people to understand what's going on, because it's a new platform. The people at Growbot, another Slack bot that I love, built this really cool feature called Operator. And what Operator lets you do is talk to a human being inside Slack through the bot. So you can get support from a human being. And this probably doesn't work at 10 million users, but at 100,000 or 10,000, when people don't know what to expect from a bot, this is going to be key. We need to help people understand what's going on and how to live within this new paradigm. That's rule 17. It's key to make starting really easy. Now this guy is really bummed out about shopping for toilet paper, because all toilet paper is basically the same and you just buy the cheapest one. That might happen with bots, because if I could use one bot to buy flowers or another bot to buy flowers, the cost for me to switch from one bot to the other is not very high, and I'm going to use the one that's cheapest or has the best features. It's really easy to switch from one bot to the other. They're going to be commodities in some cases. So if you're building a bot, it's hugely important to think about what your competitive advantage is. Do you have some sort of technology that makes your bot, that's proprietary to your bot? Do you have a network effect where the more people who use your bot, the more powerful it is? Why can't someone else just build the bot you built and offer it for 10 cents cheaper? That's rule 18. The cost to switch from one bot to another is going to be low. So in 2008, if you launched a fart app or a flashlight app on the App Store, you could probably get a lot of downloads, because there just weren't that many apps. In 2016, even if you launched a combination fart flashlight app, you probably won't get many downloads, because there's just too many apps. So it's going to be crowded in these app stores soon. And that's great, because users will have a lot of bots to choose from. But it won't be a sustainable strategy for building a giant business. Once you get those first 10,000 or 100,000 users from an app store, you need a way to turn those users into the next 10,000, the next 100,000 users, and get more users. So it's key to find alternative distribution methods. That's rule 19. Don't expect promotion. So Don is here. Don used to work on Screen Hero, and 2 years ago, Screen Hero launched a Slack integration. And then 1 year later, Screen Hero's Slack integration became a Slack feature, and it's going to be the way to make calls and do video hangouts within Slack. That's bad news for the other people like Skype and Google Hangouts who have Slack integrations that let you make video calls. There's less of a chance you're going to use that if it already exists. Rule 20 is that no one says it won't be native. If you build a bot, the platform can just decide to build the same bot, and theirs is going to get more users than yours because they have a direct channel. So it's key to think about that as an option that might happen down the road. Rule 21 is don't get hacked, because you now have access to not just the information that the user gave you, but all of the information that lives in their messaging tool. So if they use Slack, you know a lot of really important shit. It would be bad if you fucked up on security. So it's key to think about how you're keeping these things safe, because it's even more important than almost any other type of app that you would build, because you have all of this information. Rule 22 is to always bring a towel. That's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. I guess I'm more of a nerd than most of the people in this room. And so I leave you with that. Always bring a towel and try to follow maybe a few of these rules and build amazing bots, because I'm really excited about bots, and I think that there will be a lot of very powerful bots to come out down the road. I'm Alex. I am the founder of slash-hyphen, and we do Slack consulting. So get in touch if you're interested in that or the future of bots. Thank you so much.